Hi, and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Thursday, August 5th, 2021, and today's topic is called Color Wheels. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening July 22nd through the 24th, 2021. And we're going to do things a little bit differently today. Before we get into the show, I'm going to invite you, if you'd like to participate here, just to take a moment, find any point on the screen on the image that you like, and just kind of gaze there a little bit. And in the meantime, just inhale. We're going to inhale and exhale deeply if you'd like to do that with me. I'm just feeling moved to do this. So, if you want, and if you have any issues breathing in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth, I invite you even just to grab each side of your nostrils and let's just inhale and exhale deeply. And as we inhale, we're going to imagine all that good oxygen reaching every cell throughout the body, especially down through the stomach and the lower area and the solar plexus of the body, and just really giving that a good boost of good oxygen. So if you're ready with me, I am literally going to grab each side of my nostrils and open them up wide. And here we go. Inhaling. Now exhaling. Okay. Now, just really let that flow through your body and feel rejuvenated, and do it several times if you like. I just like one good inhale and one good exhale. And by the way, inspiration, which at least in the US, I think we commonly think of that as drawing in some really beautiful creativity and kind of even sometimes from an otherworldly just flow coming in divinely. It's no coincidence that also means to breathe in. So again, just if you're not doing it already, remember at some point in the day just to take a moment and really deep breath in, and envisioning it in your mind too, just totally making every cell in your body happy with that good oxygen, and then exhaling it all out. Um, it's sometimes we just get caught up in shallow breathing up in the chest area. Just a little friendly reminder to do that. Anyway, enough said about that. It does actually, though, correspond with color wheels. If you look at color wheels in terms of the chakras in the body, as they correspond to different colors and energy centers, and keeping that flow running really nicely. But obviously, we're going to get into sky observations that will address the hint of this title. All right, now I am going to have some spiritual and just good messages coming up in the front of the show. And if that doesn't interest you, skip ahead to the sky observations. However, there might be even just one word, a turn of phrase, or color, anything in the images that I'm going to present that might click with you and might be intended for you. But otherwise, just skip ahead to the sky observations too, however you like. All right, well, that being said, I still would like to do the welcome and warm greetings page and say, good day, osio, how, buongiorno, guten tag, kia ora, jambo, kedu, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, dzień dobry, konnichiwa, dobrohonya, annyeonghaseyo, botarji, dobry den, aloha winala, kalimera, uranda, and good day. And today's starter image is of a target for bow and arrow practice. And as you can see, it's taken a lot of hits, I think, like a lot of us have in life. But the interesting thing about this image is this was an outdoor target. I just wanted to point it out that, yes, it's important sometimes to really be focused in life. Go for what you have in mind as your target and keep going until you get there. However, it's also good to leave room for things maybe going off a little bit. So all of these have hit the target. Nobody said it has to hit dead center, as they call it, which is interesting. Should be like lively center, not just dead, right? Our culture is so riddled with death symbols and words for some reason. I think some of you know what I'm hinting at. But anyway, yeah, it's funny because when you're shooting, it's a live exercise, right? So what's going on here? Anyhow, I just went off track a little bit. But the point is that even any arrow hitting, in the blue area or the red, you're still hitting the target. You're just not, exactly laser focused where you want. But it's important to also allow different things, to enter into the picture. And you can be focused and be a champ and a pro at hitting the center of this target every single time. But what happens when you go to release that arrow and a gust of wind just comes and knocks it off completely, out of the picture? Well, that's good. That's meant to be. You got to, not script everything too tightly here. And just know that when you go to pick up that arrow, maybe you just see a gorgeous butterfly that's never been discovered before, or who knows, you got to let a little room for the magic to enter in is my point. So good to stay focused, but also keep a balance of, allowing some magic to happen. Anyway, let's get into some more important messages. So this is an unusual show too, because I'm going to spend a little more time on these words, wisdom, and spirit of the day, pages 1 and 2. And I'm probably going to fly through the sky observations a little more quickly than usual. But if you've looked at any of my other previous shows, you can also, spend a longer time on the slides when I'm finished with the show, and try to analyze some things on your own this time, a little bit more than me walking through a lot of detail-heavy things. Anyway, let me get through this. So this is the spirit of the day, page 1. I'm going to read a lot today on pages 1 and 2, so bear with me. We're going to start off with a quote that's attributed to the Hopi or the Native Americans. It's a prophecy. And this is a quote, an excerpt from it. And it's coming from ya-native.com. It's a very interesting site to go check out. A lot of wisdoms there. So this quote goes like this. When the earth is ravaged and the animals are dying, a new tribe of people shall come unto the earth from many colors, creeds, and classes, and who by their actions and deeds shall make the earth green again. They shall be known as the warriors of the rainbow. And coming up on the next slide, we're going to get into some excerpts from the warriors of the rainbow as well. So that was just a quote that struck me as important to include today. Make of it what you will. But I take it as a new tribe of people coming into the earth. Even though they mention from many colors, creeds, and classes, to me, it is the rising up of the light within each of us. And that just means it's kind of regardless of our color, creed, or classes, the essence of us is the light. And that alone is going to separate this new class of people, is the ones that are shining brightly, the ones who do care about the earth and all living things, including water and sky and everything. So I did draw a card. I don't always do it, but I felt compelled to do it today. And actually there are two cards, the one showing the green malachite, and then this one over here that says lightning. So the malachite comes from the Daily Crystal Inspiration deck, and this other one with lightning comes from the Mystical Shaman or Shaman Oracle deck. Now, I did also just grab a couple of my own personal crystals collection and put them in here too. So we have petrified wood to the right and clear quartz over here to the left. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. And I'll explain why I pulled those into this too. Now, the number 30, we're going to get to down here. It comes from some of the meanings that I'm going to talk about come from Angel Numbers, Joanne Sacred Scribe site. All you do is do a search with that in it and then put any number you want behind it. And she has some beautiful meanings and symbolisms for some of the numbers. A lot of numbers, actually. It can be 3 digits or more. Anyway, let's just hit that with number 30. Is encourages you to accept and develop your spiritual gifts and abilities and to use them to enhance your life. And I just want to add, when your life is enhanced, then you are able to enhance the life of everyone around you and everything around you. And, any living thing. And so that's important because, some people say, oh, don't be selfish. Well, when you are self-centered, centered in the self, you are, I'm going to jump over to this picture of lightning. You are maximizing all of your God-given powering gifts and concentrating it. So it's like that 0 point of creation where you've got this hot spot of, before a flash of lightning begins, there's this building up in this, really nice hot spot that just then, like the spark of life, just blasts out, all around you. And it's actually, coincidentally, this looks like a lot of some of the sky observations I have, especially in the show called Lightning Show, Epic Backyard Night Craft Sky Battle, something like that. I have a picture where there is something kind of arcing between 2 points that I'm going to just give you a, what do you call it, a spoiler alert, they're not clouds, but there was an arcing band coming between two and like a hot spot in the middle. That's what this reminds me of. It's like that 0 point of creation that just starts to just blast out. It has to just harness that energy and blast out somewhere. Now, what's interesting in this picture is this silhouette of this person reminds me of, this is the new tribe of person that's, coming to the earth that I think is already here. Maybe others are coming too from other sources, but this is this new class where we kind of just remember that we are this. This is our essence, regardless of shape, color, and anything else. It's this power. Anyhow, that being said, let's go to the actual definition they give in this other site I have labeled here. So lightning represents power and speed for warriors of a tribe. And yes, that certainly does do that. And Malachite, when we jump over here, its message is, it's time to transform. You are capable of so much more than you know. See your target and keep going until you reach it. And so obviously we just talked about the target in the previous starter image. And I love how this, it all just flows. These again were just, I drew them and just said, hey, God, Spirit, Universe, Source, whatever you want to call it, bring out what you want everyone to hear, or just even a word or whatever you want somebody to hear today. And this is what came out. So we look at the Malachite and look at that. It just reminds you exactly of a target, at least it does me. And then green as far as, making the earth green. But now I did include clear quartz because, of course, it reminded me of this burst of energy. And actually, when lightning hits sand, it transforms the sand into something like glass. Also, clear quartz, I invite you to look this up on your own. It's no coincidence that we talk about quartz movement and clocks and watches. There's something very interesting about that and the way frequencies are regulated. So I invite you to go look that on your own. And then, of course, transformation. We've got petrified wood, which starts to crystallize and transform in interesting ways. And I invite you to look at that process, too, a little bit more in depth on your own if you care to. And I included this because there's like a darker piece here floating, just reminded me of this, and the power of transformation. So that's all I'm going to touch on for this one because I do have another slide that I would like to read kind of verbatim, and then we'll get into the sky observation. So here we go. Now, this is excerpts from the Warriors of the Rainbow, which was alluded to in the previous slide. I am going to just straight up read these. I took 4 specific excerpts out of a very lengthy text, but I do recommend that you go search that out, Warriors of the Rainbow, as related by Lee Brown, or it can also be referred to as the Rainbow Prophecy. So here we go. The stone tablets of the yellow race of people are kept by the Tibetans in Tibet. If you went straight through the Hopi Reservation to the other side of the world, you would come out in Tibet. The Tibetan word for sun is the Hopi word for moon, and the Hopi word for sun is the Tibetan word for moon. Okay, excerpt 2. But we're in that time now. We're between the first light of a new day and the sunrise. The sunrise is about to come, and when it comes up, everyone is going to see it. But you know how it is in the village. There's a few people that get up early, and there are some that sleep until noon. I'm probably one of those that sleeps until noon. Excerpt 3. So he said, at this time, you're going to see that things will speed up, that people on the earth will move faster and faster. Grandchildren will not have time for grandparents. Parents will not have time for children. It will seem like time is going faster and faster. The elders advised us that as things speed up, you yourself should slow down. The faster things go, the slower you go. Because there's going to come a time when the earth is going to be shaken a 3rd time. The Great Spirit has been shaking the earth 2 times. The First and Second World Wars to remind us that we are a human family, to remind us that we should have greeted each other as brothers and sisters. We had a chance after each shaking to come together in a circle that would have brought peace on earth, but we missed that. Okay, excerpt 4. In the cycle of time, from the beginning to the end, this time we are in now will change the purification of all things. They say this is the hardest time to live, but it is also the greatest honor to be alive, to live, and see this. And I really hope everybody captures the magic in that last excerpt. We are here at a very specific time, an extraordinary time like no other. There are things happening in the sky. They're being veiled. We're in a time of great deception. Things are being hidden from us that by rights we should be able to see. Every human being should be able to see what's going on up in the sky right now very clearly. But it is being veiled by things like chemtrails and other things happening with solar tech in the sky, literally veiling and disrupting our view of the original sun, things of that nature. Anyhow, nothing to be fearful of at all. It just is what it is. We really were supposed to be gifted the time to see a lot of beautiful things happening in the heavens, and we're just not quite there yet. So I invite you, as we look at the sky observations in the show, to really kind of ponder, some of these statements, and then also look at other Earth and Sky watching channels out there on YouTube, especially the very genuine ones, people like you and myself, just going out and directly observing some anomalies and strange things in the skies, and just look at it with wonder, no fear. Even when they talk about the Earth shaking, it is said that the Earth is, a sentient being, a conscious being, and is in the process of ascension from going from a 3D to a 5D. And that's called the shift. And so, if we are to shift with the earth, there'll be changes happening within us and around us as well. And again, I see that as a very positive thing, nothing to worry about, nothing, there's absolutely no gloom and doom with it, things that have been misrepresented to us from the beginning of time. So anytime you hear about the worst case scenarios, that simply isn't true. We are not in an end of days, rather just a change in days or a shift in days that are actually for the better. And even if there's a quote unquote somebody being left behind on the old earth or 3D earth, so what? That's just a path, just a different path. There's no better or worse, and it's whatever any of us needs at the time. So anyway, I've lingered enough on that one, so let's get into the sky observations. Now, I know it's kind of a radical departure in a way, but we're going to start off with this slide. For anyone who's new, welcome. Also, welcome to anyone who's returning. Heartfelt thanks to all of you for being here. If you are returning, you may want to skip ahead on this bit. I'm just going to go over the basics of why I'm here, why I'm even doing this, what I'm looking at, for the benefit of anybody who's new, and if you care to hear it. So all I do is go around wherever I am at any given moment. Most of the time it's in Miami, Florida, and I just look around the skies, as I'm coming and going about my daily business, and at least 2 to 5 minutes a day. I just, look up, take a good 360. Sometimes I might have a weird little feeling to go out and just look up and take a picture. Might not even really see something, and then later I come in and look at the picture, and I'm like, oh, wow, there was something there. So yeah, use your sixth sense, use your physical senses, and look up. Now, I've been noticing a lot of strange anomalies, colors, a lot of different things, weird things happening with the sun. Been observing a lot of cloak and craft, and that just really kind of started in 2018. There's a very significant event that happened in that year that even caused me to look up, and I do cover that in one of the very first shows. However, what I do is take an original photo and I enhance it. And enhancement means simply that I've taken the photo and I've edited attributes of the photo, such as color, saturation, brightness, and contrast. That's really about it. Sometimes saturation. Just play with those levels a tiny bit, and you see a whole new world open up before you when I do that in any given photo. Sometimes I'll take out all the color to really kind of focus on certain things better. I'll drop in some letters just to keep us focused too, just on the key highlights. I'm not going to get to every point that I've labeled. It's just for you to also to look on your own time and see what I might have been getting at there. And also, you'll notice that I put strange cloud activity in quotes in the lower right-hand corner. That means that cloud is another kind of code word for suspecting cloaking craft up in the skies. When I say cloaking craft, the cloaking material I'm going to refer to as my go-to as plasma. Just refers to something heavier and denser than water vapor that's really great at lingering in the sky and can cloak stuff. But there's also going to be other means of cloak, especially if we get to interdimensional type craft that seem to very ephemeral and phantom-like that come and go, or supernatural phenomenon that I call like the hold on. Okay, I'm back. That I call air wisps or sky wisps or air elementals. Could be a very supernatural phenomenon, or it could be 3D craft cloaking in an unusual way. And when I mean craft, the 3D is something, yeah, you could knock on it, potentially walk up and touch it and knock on it if it were on the ground. Or it could be coming in and out of state. Sorry, hold on one more second. Okay, I'm back. So anyway, that's what I mean. And when I mean craft, I do mean something that is of ET advanced technology, extraterrestrial advanced technology, or inner Earth technology. So there's a lot to be said for beings and craft coming from out of the inner Earth or the oceans. Anyway, that's what I'm referring to. Could there be some man-made tech up there happening? Absolutely. I think in the case of the solar tech that I referred to earlier, especially check out the concept of a solar simulator or artificial sun. There are patents pulled in the early 60s, 1961 I think I found one. It's documented in an early show that have been pulled and granted. And so there's tech up there. And plenty of other Sky and Earth watching channels are covering that as well. I highly recommend one, not for any of the religious content. I don't go for that at all, just for the direct evidence that she captures. Do check out The Final Days on YouTube. And she just posted one. She hasn't posted for a long time, since February, but now one just popped up. I highly recommend it because in that one little 4-minute or 10-minute little boost there. She gives you that segment a very great overview of what's going on with the sun that just doesn't, you know, when you look up at the sun, we never had a bright, fixed, glaring white sun in the past. It was always like a beautiful yellow or golden color that slightly pulsed, had a beautiful healing energy coming out of it in the sun rays itself. And these days, it's just bright white, fixed, glaring. And a lot of people who don't even look up at the sky and notice any kind of phenomenon going on have just off the cuff mentioned to me, yeah, I got a sunburn, and gosh, it just doesn't feel like before. It stayed red forever. It didn't, tan out, and it felt like I was burned by a microwave. So, yes, there are actual definite changes in our skies. And I didn't really catch on to that about the sun until 2018, but I did notice some significant changes in the sky starting in 2014. Others, noticed it happening, much earlier. Anyway, I kind of have gone all around all over the place on this one today, but that just gives you a sense of what's going on. And of course, I invite you to look at some of my other earlier shows too, to get a more typical version of how I usually run these shows. Anyway, let's get into it with these sky observations. Anything I forgot, I'll just catch up with later in the show. All right, so now the left is the original, the right is the enhanced version. So right away, I look to it a lot of times with movement and energies. So in this area of the world, again, it's subtropical to tropical Florida, South Florida. We would, in days of yore, I've been here many decades on the planet. I'm just seeing all kinds of strange stuff now in the skies. Before, we used to have just really puffy, typical, very, what do I want to say? Not expected, but predictable, puffy, cumulus clouds. And they would just, drift very horizontally across, or they might well up vertically into a thunderhead or like a bigger cumulus situation where we'd have thunderstorms and stuff. But we'd never had stuff like this, and never have anything like pop up vertical as something else is going across on angle and another thing is going horizontal like I'm seeing these days. So to the right, we can see better with enhancement. I've got something coming up vertical, and then this doing something. So 8.1 to me, this looks like a craft. I know all of this is a little bit fuzzy, and I do highly recommend, if you're viewing this on a handheld device on a smaller screen format, if you ever get a chance to run the show up on a laptop, you're going to see different stuff in different details, and vice versa. If you're only looking at a laptop screen, you're going to catch more and see different things when you shrink it down, more toward a thumbnail size. So when I run this show, I run it on a laptop, so I may miss the things that you see when it's on the handheld device. And sometimes if you have both handy, it's good to just look at them both running as the show's going and like look up and down, toggle back and forth with your eyes and see the differences. But anyway, all that to say, so 8.1 is just feeling very much like a cloaking object right in here to me. Now, again, I'm not going to hit every single letter on the show. I'm going to kind of fly through. But what caught my attention here was C.1. We get this burst of something else coming up vertical. So that just wouldn't happen if, we have a breeze coming across, which, by the way, any wind and breezes have been extremely conspicuously absent, definitely in the last 3 years. It's also rain and rainbows. And we used to always have a steady breeze. We're very near the coastline, and that has been all but gone. All right, there are reasons for that have been documented in other shows as well. All right, so let's just move ahead now. Some of these aren't so extraordinary. We'll get into the fun stuff coming up. But here we've got some strange movement. Again, looking at this weird thing in the sky, I thought it was just a chemtrail with like maybe a craft approaching it. So let's look to the right. And this still does look like a chemtrail was formed. And usually I see sky wisps, that phenomenon, come up, and they kind of come through this stuff and do like a sky sweep. And to me, it's like they're cleaning up whatever noxious things are in that trail. But in this case, we get a clear appearance of a more like a cloaking craft, because this is like a flattened triangle. It's a very straight edge here coming in perpendicular to this. That would never happen, and just a consistent breeze blowing across. We have a point popping out here in relief, and so that shows me there's maybe something cloaking even behind here. Anyway, see what you think is going on with any of these. I'm just giving you some suggestions, and I invite you to, look more on your own and see what you, feel or see might be going on in there as well. And if you have any fun angles of what's happening, feel free to leave them in the comment section below if you like, or if you have anything based in logic, whatever. All right, here we're going to zoom back out and look at the overall scene. Let's just spend time on the right. So 8.1, there's definitely a more solid object happening in here with cloaking material wafting in front of it. We've got a triangular shape, very rigid, straight lines that don't happen in natural cloud systems. Then we get this interesting sky imprint. Look how clean and sharp and level these edges are. Something else is happening down here with a straight edge on angle. So I think there's a big craft or multiple craft in the imprint form cloaking back in here in the negative sky print sense, sky imprint sense. And I cover when I'm talking about a sky imprint in other shows. This thing actually could be a huge expanded triangle even coming out this far. There could be something this big. There's also weird stuff trailing off what I would say is the back. See what you think with that. Then here's that part of that trail I was looking at. That was that little triangular shape. And look at these other little bits coming in at different angles. So I think those are craft as well. And when I say craft, it could be actually, a craft, a spacecraft. Or it could be, a sensor or some other type of tech. And some of these things I'm calling sky imprints could be a craft, or the imprint could be a portal or something else as well. Again, I invite you to look at some of my other shows to see some of my theories on that. Also look in the description box below at some theories of what could be causing the red-pink color, extraordinary color we're going to see coming up in the show. So now at B.1, this also looks like an object to me because we have a straight lines here, almost rectangular or trapezoidal. So it looks like something is cloaking behind here as well. And when I see this choppy, if you look to the left, even to the naked eye, it's all kind of choppy and fuzzy while other things are in focus to the human eye and on the camera. To me, that means there's some type of craft involved in the sky, either here, local, in little bits and pieces of different craft, or one bigger one up cloaking above that just sends out these electromagnetic energy waves or other types of waves or frequencies to disturb all of this material. That's what I think is going on. All right, let's keep going. And there's so much I'm not even going to touch on, like how weird this is, at how low this supposed cloud formation is, and that's going on straight on angle. That just doesn't happen with natural clouds. Okay, now we'll skip over to the right-hand side of this to look at 8.1. I think you can see why I flagged it. We see a clear imprint here. We have a symmetrical shape. Looks like an arrowhead with a little, thing on the back, a little stick on the back. And it looks like this thing has a vapor trail behind it, so like it just zoomed in and then bam, opened up right here all of a sudden. There's other weird stuff going on here as well as far as the imprint. That has like an ice cream cone shape. The bulbous part back here and the cone part here. A lot of interesting things happening in that photo. We're going to zoom in on it just to give you a better, look at that, what I'm calling arrow. Look how straight this line is. It's disrupted a little bit because that's cloaking material or like the trail, going in behind it. All right, this one gets interesting on the right-hand side. This reminds me of what popped up in a previous show. It looks like the tread of the bottom of a sneaker or gym shoe or trainers, whatever you like to call them. Really weird. It does look like a tread. And then we have something strange here that has solidity to it. Looks like cloaking material wafting over it. So I think this overall thing is a craft. That might be like the little command deck looking out this way. A little weird thing here at 8.1. Like that to me is a standalone craft or some type of instrumentation coming out. And then, this overall shape too. This gentle arc of a curve. These little bright points when it's pure white popping up on a monochromatic background, whether it's gray or a color, tells me that's either a standalone little craft flowing along or sensor, or it's a machine part popping up out of an overall cloaking craft. And I have plenty of shows illustrating that, and it comes up again later in this show. Anyway, this also has like an edge and shadow. It looks very structured, so to me that's something cloaking in there as well. This one gets real interesting. Doesn't look like much. It looks kind of pale in the distance. But bam, this is what I was seeing. So we have this strange artificial cloud assembly. I say artificial because it wells up like a wedge, and it's very diffuse and concentrated stuff that it does not feel or look like cloud. And it even frays in the edge in a weird way. So I'm going to say it's artificially generated. And I gotta say, at first I thought these were things that could be human generated, but I'm going to say that they are advanced ET tech generated. Just because they're so low in the sky and they just pop up spontaneously in places. And there's always strange cloaking craft associated with them, coming out of the leading edges or above. So in this case, look at this curve to a point. That's got to be a cloaking craft either coming out or going into this thing. And in this case, it looks like more are doing the same. All these little bits, that's got a real solid denseness to it. So that tells me there is stuff cloaking in here. And look how it's just coming out near level, while this thing is rising up. Again, that does not happen in the natural flow in the sky. At least not in the decades that I've been on this planet in the past, observing in the past. All right, now this one, what caught my attention on the left-hand side in the original was just this weird, darker shape floating up here. And also the overall feel of this was just strange. So we look to the right, and here we go. So at B.1, here's that darker thing. I still don't know what that is. I think we're getting a glimpse of something popping out of cloaking material that's, veiling this entire assembly here. And I think 8.1, that bit is also something popping out of one overall cloaking craft beyond. C.1, it looks like this thing flew in from this way because this looks like vapor trail coming out the back, trailing out the back. And this thing looks like it has like a roundish shape on the back and like maybe a couple of legs or things in the front here. And then this could be either a separate craft or part of this overall assembly, I'm not sure. But look at the bright spots, look at the color signature. There's something different happening here than everywhere else. 8.12 looks like something's happening, off to the right of that photo. Okay, this one we're going to go ahead and jump to the enhanced version and look at these two assemblies here. So we're looking off to the south-southwest. Southwest is to the right of the photo. And look at this. We've got like this weird hybrid unknown cloud. It's like a capital letter I shape, and it's got like a wedge, a weird artificial feeling wedge shape here, again going straight vertical, and then going straight horizontal again. That does not happen with a natural cloud, and this low, floating in, so low in the atmosphere. So we got weird stuff popping off the top, which I suspect are cloak and craft, and something very different down here, which I suspect is a cloak and craft at the perimeter of this thing. There's probably cloaking stuff in the middle as well. And then we look over to the right, and some strange stuff is happening here too. Look, we get like a backward C, perfect form. That doesn't happen in nature. We've got a darker thing, body kind of cloaking behind here and here. So let's look at this in more detail. So we're going to look at that. Going back a second, we're going to look on this part, and then we'll look at this part zoomed in. So here we go. Here's like that capital letter I was talking about. And so we have something strange happening here. It looks like something's, ejected out of that little thing, whatever that is. And then look at this. This looks almost like a craft sitting on an arm, like a part of a bigger assembly of a bigger craft back in here. Has very specific texture and shape, and it's just kind of hanging there. See what you think is happening though. Then we're going to look at that other backward C shape, and it looks like something more solid is in here. Maybe a flattened triangular shape. Maybe there are a couple things, cloaking in here. Then we have this darker body moving down here, and look at this. It has a point to it. This looks like a crystal, really perfectly shaped and formed. It's a rigid geometry, symmetrical. So that tells me that's cloak and craft. We've got these weird little prongs or points or pincers coming out of here too. So again, this is all too designed to be haphazard cloud. This looks like another cloaking body of a more pointed ellipse shape with other little weird things popping off down here. Then we get this, the elephant in the room, this triangular white bright point. So again, when I see something bright and white in character, in front of everything else, that tells me, especially with little wafting material around it, this isn't a hole and we're looking through it. This is an object superimposed on the front of this thing. That tells me that's some type of cloak and craft or instrument or sensor or something flying around in there. Anyway, see what you think is happening in here. All right, this one on the right-hand side, we're going to look at, we got this beautiful red-pink color signature. Again, look at the description box below of what could be causing this. I think in this case, it's a very local object doing that. Look at this. We've got a darker imprint line coming straight across and another straight line on angle. So that is not a cloud formation. No way. Then we have this thing running along, very straight line at an angle, totally different than these, and in opposition, in fact. So what is that? So I think this is a craft zooming up this way, and I believe this one just kind of floated in and is doing its own thing here. And what's this little peculiar notch out at C.1? Anyway, have fun looking at this and see what else you can find in here. All right, this one looks like not too much is happening, except you look at A and there's this perfect straight stick-like streak and other weird things happening beyond. So we look at it with enhancement to get a better view and highlight and draw out what the heck is going on in here exactly. Look at this thing. That is clearly some type of object. And we even get a couple white points at the top showing that there's probably some reflection happening there and, something sticking up and protruding on this thing. We have other movement happening down here and here as well. So I'm going to say there is cloaking craft going on in here. We also get strange color signatures. So this is toward the evening and we're looking northeast. So the sky is, somewhat bright and golden down here. There's a blanket of haze and fog, or what? Not fog, but a hazy blanket of artificial stuff. I'm going to say artificial cloud, and we get a bright white, hot spot behind this tree. So there's just a lot of strangeness happening in this scene. Then we're going to look at this one on the right. It's a little fuzzy and bitmappy, but I just still wanted to include it because on the left, I just noticed weird texture happening that didn't look like typical cloud. And then here I get a little bit of confirmation because we get a red-pink signature here in the middle. And we have weird stuff kind of coming along down an angle parallel. So to me that's different kinds of craft coming in. And then again we get this kind of choppy pattern, so it tells me there's some type of cloaking craft generating that disturbance. And then look down at D.1. What the heck is this? So we have all this going on, but then we have a very clear, another little elongated piece coming out of there, very out of character with everything else. So to me, that's got to be cloaking craft as well, different type. Okay, this one we're going to look at the northwest toward the evening, and we're going to look at all these color signatures, pretty vibrant, all over the place. So it's supposed to be a sunset looking northwest, and we get a bright, brighter color down here, turns quickly into golds and yellows, and then bam to reds. So, we have no consistency here. So if we were having a sunset, it should be either, the yellow or the red, but not go from white to yellow to red above. So again, check out the description box below of what could be causing that red in the sky. Now B.1 gets really interesting because we have a right angle, or a near right angle here happening, where we have this shadowy, thing making a perfect right angle. So I'm going to say that's some type of craft happening, cloaking craft activity happening right there. Then I just blew out the settings a little bit for the enhancements just to see if there's anything else to find in this photo. And actually I did. So not only do we still have this glaring, literally evidence of 3 totally different color signatures going on, plus we got the other ones happening beyond. We have this darker shadow, which comes to a perfect point. And then we have this thing at C.2, a lighter signature. It looks like it zoomed out of this thing with vapor, trailing behind it. So see what you think is going on. I think C.2 is a cloaking craft. Okay, now this is interesting. We're looking north, and I just caught my attention because we've got this line straight coming along here, and then straight here, and then something else doing its thing over here. Weird texture happening at F. And then we put some enhancement, and I see even more strange things happening at 8.1. This looks like a craft just zooming out this way. Look how straight that is. That can't get any more level. Looks like, I don't know if this overall thing is the craft or that's cloaking around it, and the essence of the craft is just this little thing here. Either way, cloak and craft in my book. Then we got weird activity, more staccato kind of choppiness. And then we've got D.1. Look at this. Looks like a little neighbor buddy to 8.1, except it's on a slightly different angle, but you get the gist. And then E.1, I think a bigger body is cloaking here beyond. F, I'm not sure what's going on, but it's strange. And then also look at the color signatures. We get this burst of white intermingled now with this. So what's going on? And keep in mind, we're looking northwest toward the white part, but we're looking north when we look at all the colors. So that really should be happening over to the left-hand side if we're talking about a sunset. A lot of strange anomalies, weird things happening there. Now we're going to look to the southeast toward 8 p.m., after 8 p.m., and then I noticed a rainbow emerging, but it just felt off. It felt a little weird. We have some hot spots in there, which just isn't typical for a rainbow. That's more typical for lens work. But anyway, let's see what's going on with some enhancement, exaggerated. And this gets really weird. So not only do we have something strange, look at the color signature happening here. To me, there's cloak and craft activity happening down here at 8.1. Same thing here, B.1 looks like craft. C.1 looks also like cloak and craft because we have a stick-like thing here with an arm that way and an arm that way. What I want to say, symmetrical, like a triangular shape. And it just looks too perfect. It looks like a designed element. This looks like a perfect rectangle down in here. I'm going to call that cloak and craft coming in. Now, D.1, E.1, so that's supposed to be a rainbow. Again, I suspect that might be lens generated because we got some burn spots, like bulb spots happening here. And I'm not sure what's happening beyond here, but it seems to be something very different happening that's kind of emerging into the scene this way. See what you think. All right, now we're going to go jump back to the north because this morphed and changed a bit. And I'm just taking these slides sequentially. And so in this particular photo, there's a lot going on, but I just want to go back to 8.1 because now we see a very clear yellow signature here while nothing else is around here. So that tells me something's got to be happening, that's different in character from everything else. You see a darker, shadowy body happening back here. So I'm going to say there's tons of cloak and craft in this scene, aside from the obvious, more cylindrical or rectangular, elongated shaped ones we saw earlier. Okay, now on the right-hand side here, just again, something weird popping up at A. It just, to me, feels like there's craft cloaking beyond, and this is just parts of it popping out. B.1, we get these little weird crater-like things happening, impressions, so I think something's cloaking here beyond as well. Then we look here, we're going to look at A and B, mostly A. 8.1 looks like something of a different character, different animal is popping up out of here with cloaking material in front of it. Again, look at the beautiful ranges and colors. Very unusual shape and patterning here at B.1 as well. Has a little structure to it. Here we're going to look at an overall scene looking west. And again, we get some interesting color signatures with that red pink beyond. And we got little weird things popping up. They look like peaks, like tips of triangles. So to me, there's like a craft back in here. Maybe it has a radial pattern to it. See what you think. Then we're going to look at this part more toward, it's still west, but more toward the northwest of what we were just looking at. And I just see a darker body, backlit in whatever's going on with this sunset. So we look at it with some enhancement. You can see that more clearly at 8.1. And look at these weird little bits. So I don't know what that is, but I believe that's something artificial popping up out of here, or, just passing by it. But that's definitely not natural. Then we're going to look at a panorama of that overall scene at sunset, and we were looking at that 8.1 element earlier. Now we're going to kind of focus on this B.1 cluster that just kind of showed up. Very odd looking, doesn't look like any cloud that I've known in the past, very kind of fallen apart look to it, yet it has some organization within it, ironically. So down here, the lower one is the original, the upper one is the enhanced version. So let's take a look at B.1 a little closer. Now this is going to be bitmappy, but if you squint your eyes, you might be able to see it clearer. I think on a handheld device it will be okay. Anyway, look how strange this is. It's not a natural cloud formation for many reasons. Chiefly here, if you look at lowercase b, we have these two whiter things just popping up out of, the background's all color. So to me, these are like tubes or sticks. These are definitely, and if you follow it, it goes all the way along back here. That is machine parts for something cloaking here beyond. This thing popping out too, I think it's all part of one cloaking craft. We've got these weird little feet or arms extending here. This weird thing, I don't know if that's a triangular form in a separate craft on its own right, or if it's some kind of appendage coming out of the front or the back of this overall craft, but it's definitely a solid object with wafting, cloaking material going on around it. Then we get this very straight line and this little darker part popping up out here and here. So to me, this is also a cloaking craft with something kind of banking up on a sharp angle there. See what you think is going on? It'll be fun to see all of this without the cloak and see what's really going on. All right, on this scene, we've got the side-by-side to the right. We have the enhanced version now. Actually, in the next slide, I'm going to show the upper part of what's going on up in here with enhancement. And the next slide, I'm going to show the lower part of what's going on. I have to enhance it in two different ways to get at things going differently above and below just because of the different color signatures happening. So here we go. Intensities in the colors happening, rather. So A and B, we look up here with enhancement. Look at, we got this snake-like thing. We've got this thing like totally doing a hairpin turn back on itself. This looks like a little standalone triangular object, and I don't know what's going on here, but we've got a crystalline structure happening in here. And then we're going to go to the next one and look at the lower part of the same photo. And then we're going to look at C.2. It's just a weird standalone object or opening in the sky. We get this weird, long, elongated noodles or tubes again, going on angle, doing their own thing. It's just all kinds of strange, and not to mention the color signatures again. We've got white, gold, red, pinks. What the heck's going on here? Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. So now we're just zooming in on that one thing that I thought was an object or an imprint or maybe a portal, who knows. But this has just a very distinct shape, even though it's a little more organic than not just like a rigid triangle or something. So let's look at this with some enhancement. And we do see it's just a different animal. I don't know quite what to make of it, but it does look like a distinct object here is popping out. And there's something cloaking right here and back in here as well. But see what else you can find in this one. Okay, this gets pretty wild. This is looking east toward the evening. And look at this long, weird tube-like overall thing started forming on a pretty big scale. And then this other movement happening down here again, very low in the atmosphere is what caught my attention. And then something forming beyond it. So we look with enhancement, we see so much better what's going on. So we have this like weird tube-like thing doing its weird thing, and I think there's a lot of stuff cloaking in here. But then look at this triangular form beyond. I mean, it's pretty clear. Straight line, straight line. Again, doesn't happen in nature in natural cloud formation. And then we get this weird thing too. So to me, and then this like level little bit here has got to be cloak and craft. Bunch of cloak and craft going on here in my opinion. Again, we get staccato cloud effect happening above. This kind of wedge thing diving down. Look at that. Like it comes to a point, 8.1. To me, that's a cloak and craft or sky imprint of some type. Maybe it's a portal opening. Who knows? But tend to think it's a sky imprint or a different way of a craft to cloak. See what you think? Okay, this gets fun looking west during the evening. Anyone see any consistency in all of this quote-unquote cloud? I don't see it. So at C, we have something coming in weird at an angle. This thing forms a peak at A and is choppy bits all over the place. And then D, what the heck is that? We got sharp points on it even, it's just doing its own thing. And then we've got this artificial cloud effect along the bottom, again, so low in the atmosphere. So we're going to look at it with enhancement. All of these don't match up. And that's a lot of different quote-unquote cloud going on in one very specific area, all in close proximity to each other to be anything natural. We also get a line, clear line going this way, so this looks like the outer edges of a triangular form. So let's zoom in on D.1 element. Look at this thing, doing its own thing on the top of the rim of this cloud. I have another show previously called Rim Watching 2, where I show you different craft kind of sitting perched on the rim of some of these artificial looking clouds. But look at this thing. Do you see these sharp points? There's no way that's a natural cloud formation. And we see little bits, popping out of here, out of like a different type of cloud consistency or vapor. So this has got to be a cloak and craft or some type of organism. Maybe it's a bioorganism that cloaks. I'm open to that too. It could be a living organism or a craft made to look like one. And we've got this weird stuff, off the back, doing a little curve-like thing. We have other stuff masked back in here. Looks like stuff with density to it. Like that could be cloak and craft as well. And look at this overall thing. The color signature is kind of violet purple, and so is this. So again, I think this is born of its own, like coming out of this cloud formation, or it just appeared. But really, there's no way you can call that a natural cloud. No way. Oh, and then up at C.2, we see, the shadow of a perfect triangle back in here. Okay, this is an overall scene. We're going to look on the right-hand side at the enhanced version. Again, look at all the different quote-unquote cloud types happening all in close proximity to each other in the sky. This doesn't happen. And the movement. We've got horizontal. We've got diagonal. We've got what the heck are these? So I'm going to leave this for you to look and analyze on your own. But we've got, triangle here. And let's just jump to the next one because I think I go in a little more detail. Yes, I do. Okay, we're going to look at A and B, each independently close up. So here's the B element. And look at this, straight lines. I start to see a rhombus. So bam, that's confirmed. Rhombus shape happening in here, more or less. Not natural. And then actually, I don't know if I don't zoom in on the 8.2. But anyway, we're going to look at one more scene before we depart this. Because now at 8.2, in this same scene, this started to pop up a little bit later. So let's just see what's going on there. And again, look at all these different types of cloud activities. So we got darker ones here that are gray, while we have pure white right here, and these are so close to each other it's not even funny. Then we have this kind of movement, this movement. What's forming here? This is like becoming like a outline of an egg shape or elliptical shape ring. So is that a portal or is that a craft? Because actually within the ring you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like a pentagram, straight line, an angle. What's going on here? They're all at different angles from each other. And then, these are parallel coming in. To me, it's all different kinds of cloak and craft going on in here. All right, this one is similar to one of the previous things that we looked at, where we have that huge cloud mass with what looks like craft just coming horizontally out of it. And so we're going to look at it with enhancement. And here, these just look like independent craft bodies. This one even has vapor trail at D.1. Coming out of this, what I'm going to say is an overall artificial cloud assembly made to look like cloud, but is actually either one massive cloak and craft or many within here. And look at B.1, that looks like an independent craft as well. A.1 looks like something cloaking in a very different way. Okay, this one gets interesting. So we're looking west-northwest, and we've got this outer tracing, just looked really weird and very precise. Again, line, completely linear, and then weird stuff happening, very fuzzy. We've got some backlighting going on in here, which I love because it really helps highlight some of these craft better, cloak and craft better. So now we're going to look with enhancement. We got this weird standalone shape here with like a trail behind it. This, I don't know what's going on, but D.1 to me is something cloaking. This may be a bigger part of a bigger thing cloaking back in here. And what's going on with this outline? That's very mystifying. I have no idea what's that doing. And we get the color burst, a bright hotspot burst in here with the color around it. So is this a portal? And that's outer tracing, kind of defining the like fenced area of it? Or is this a cloak and craft? What's going on in here? This one's pretty mystifying. See what you think. Then we got denser little bits happening in here. So I think C.1 is a cloak and craft. Same thing down here with F.1. Look at the what's quote-unquote sun. We got this weird, presence of this color with red all around it and then white. What's happening? And then all of this, the profile down here is artificial cloud once again. A wall of artificial cloud. Okay, well, thanks for hanging in on this show, this unusual show with me. I know I had a different weighting of messages in here today, but I thought they were important to share. So thank you for heading over here a while. This is the group of white ibis in flight heading toward the southeast at sunset. So again, many thanks. I wish you a gorgeous now and a beautiful weekend ahead, and tremendous peace and love to you. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.